and here's my scene. You'll notice that I have a focal, like an autofocus box. I would say you can move that around. That's kind of important. In a case of a landscape, it's really not going to make a huge difference. But if you were doing portraits or something like a still life close up, you may want to move around that. So on a T6, a Rebel, on the back there's kind of a grid or something like that of a set button in the center with AF for autofocus on the right, WB for white balance on the bottom, time on the left, ISO on the top, and I can just press one of those buttons to move the focal point left, right, up, down, wherever I want it. I'm just going to reset it back to 0. And what I want to do is to show you how to bracket. So basically, bracketing is taking a series of exposures from the meter reading center to +1 or +2 or whatever number combination you want. Normally, one stop over and one stop under is going to be good enough to get you all the details in a bright sky and all the details in a heavy shadow. I'm shooting on RAW too, so this is probably less necessary, but especially with a JPEG, if it's high contrast, this is a good idea to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just change either my aperture or my shutter, going 3 clicks right, 3 clicks left. So let me go ahead and do that. So I take one picture as it is and go 1, 2, 3. So that's underexposing by one full stop, is 3 clicks. I'd take a picture. And then I go back 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3 to be overexposed by one stop and take another picture. And this will ensure that I have all that I need of this frame. I'm set up on a tripod, I should say, which makes it really easy to do this. And there's actually a technique I'll show you later in the class called HDR, High Dynamic Range, where if you have extreme amounts of contrast, you can stitch those images together to ensure that you have all detail in the highlights and the shadows. But this is just a relatively high contrast, late afternoon shot. Night photography would probably be where you'd be needing that sort of a combining of a larger dynamic range.
So there's just one thing I wanted to mention about this, which is that you may have seen the numbers change, the shutter and aperture numbers change here. But in the camera, you'd actually see a little dot or a dash going from underneath that center arrow and over to the and one plus and one minus. But that didn't show through when I recorded the menus from the camera.